Resistance hates two qualities above all others: concentration and depth. Why? Because when we work with focus and we work deep, we succeed. How did Tom Brady master the art of the forward pass? How did Picasso paint? How did Yo-Yo Ma learn the cello? Resistance wants to keep us shallow and unfocused, so it makes us superficial in the vein, intoxicating. Have you checked your email in the last half hour? When you sit down to do your work, do you leave your web connection on? It can be fatal, keeping up with the Kardashians. Stephen Pressfield, from his book, Turning Pro. Today we are ATG Syndicate against the Grain Syndicate. It's myself, Jeff Black, joined with Jason Roberson, a.k.a. Robo. We got our producer, Cinema 83, Logan. We would normally have Scoob sitting right there, but he is at home and he's just feeling not so good. So we're trucking along on these episodes without him. But Robo and I wanted today, we're passionate about reading. So if this is an episode where you don't read a book, I would actually encourage you to still listen, because you have Audibles, you have YouTube now. A lot of authors, because I am trying to be one, have put themselves out there in a lot of different ways that you can get access to this. So no longer do you have to sit and just read a book. You can listen. There's a lot of ways. We wanted to kind of have this episode, or we didn't kind of want it. We wanted to have this episode to really bring about a couple books, 5 each, that we felt was really impactful to us, that would really help you in your entrepreneur journey, your motivational journey, and just kind of like wanted to be better, which is kind of what we're trying to do. You know, with the podcast, we bring on entrepreneurs, small business owners. We understand they're resilient, and some of the things we've uncovered is a lot of them read, or they'll listen to audibles or things like that. There's always this process of self-enhancement going on and self-improvement, and we wanted to kind of get into that today. So Robo, you got anything you want to say on that as we open this up today?
Yeah, I think of people who read and don't read in two different classes. If you're someone who says, you know what, I haven't read a book, I don't really read, honestly, I respect you a little bit less. You're not learning. You're not actively able to engage. You're not really able to look deep into topics. Everything's cursory, surface level. You're focusing on too many things when you're looking at a podcast, when you're watching a YouTube video. When you're reading, you really get fully enveloped into that story. And it's a way to stand on the shoulder of giants. You know, these authors put their heart and soul into it. They research for years to put this material together. You might watch a documentary on the History Channel that someone put together, in a couple days, or you might listen to a podcast, with Jeff and I, and we're bullshitting about a topic like porn addiction that we're not really qualified to discuss. And we have our viewpoints.
But we did discuss it.
Yeah. There's really good books out there on things like that you can learn a lot more than you would in this medium. And some of these books are ones that were super influential for me as an individual, for me to become a better person, and for me in my business, ones that I highly recommend. Jeff, what's your thought on people who read versus people who don't?
I don't think there's an excuse for it, because you can listen to Audible. And I have many of my clients, I'm like, hey, just get the damn book on Audible and listen to it. I agree with you, because I pointed this out to my wife the other night, because she was like, wow, you got a lot of books on SEO. I was like, yeah, I want to kick my competition's ass that bad that I'm going to go read 5 books and then understand it decently enough to go find someone that I feel to be the superior choice to help arm a wing of my company that I'm prepared to go kick some ass in. I said that's part of the reason why entrepreneurs get their ass kicked, because rather than go understand it themselves, they go try to find someone. And then that person usually is not very qualified and their business tanks. And I think that books allow you to kind of peek into areas, especially in entrepreneurship. Like, if you look over there, I've got books from Seth Godin on marketing and different stuff, like how to retain clients, never lose a customer. I've never read this. I like history like you. I like mindset, motivation, and those kind of things interest me most, especially fantasy. I'm a big Dungeons and Dragons fan. But the art of reading, the skill of reading, if you will, has really helped me in business. And I tell every entrepreneur, like, why can't you find 30 minutes a day? If you really want to win that bad in business, you'll figure out a way to win. And I think education, books, I think that talking about this with you is going to be fun. I would dare say that my book collection is more valuable to me than my $40,000 degree. Do you know what I mean? Like, in terms of just life experiences, shit I know about health and fitness, stuff I just understand, like I said, about leadership in here, about neuro-linguistic programming. all these different things. I think there's more value in this bookcase, in all honesty, than a college degree. Most of those professors who go to college, and you know this, you business background, they drive Toyota Priuses and Honda Accords. And I mean, don't get me wrong, but they're not necessarily living that entrepreneur life. It's a lot of theory. And in business, it's really fuck theory. It's got to be practice. You know what I mean? That's really, like you said, you get a chance to stand on the shoulder of giants. That's what practice gets you. Theory just gets you kind of hoping you can get in the game. It's always leaving you as the backup quarterback. In my
Readers
opinion.
are leaders, man.
I
Readers
agree.
are leaders.
I agree. I haven't met, and that's like the thing. Me and you, because you've been in the gym with me for a while. We've seen CEOs come and go. We've seen successful people come and go, and the ones who really are. Read or have something going on where they're learning, whether it be a podcast series, like our friend Baker, you know, he's trying to learn all about real estate now. So he's listening to every podcast real estate. That to me quantifies as a form of reading to a degree because you're self-improving. Books are no different now. You can get them in audible form. There's no excuse there. I do think there's something about sitting down with a book though, putting marks in it, and then being able to reference it later in times of need.
Yeah, we all thought the bookstore was going to go out of business, 20 years ago when the Kindle launched. And here we are, what is it, 2024, and bookstores are thriving in some sense because people want that physical copy. They want to be able to reference it. They want it in their hands because it's a symbol of complete focus.
100%. I think there's something that people miss, and this is something I challenge people on. Most people's exposure to reading comes from school. They're reading stuff they don't want to read. And I'm like, whoa, you don't, like in business, like there's a lot of things I don't want to read. However, I could change it over to, I need to read this because it's valuable for me wanting to win and kick someone's ass. You know what I mean? Like, and I don't think people kind of like break that down for themselves because there's that initial, well, I won't read. And I'm like, well, I'm not asking you to read A Midnight Summer Dream. You know what I mean? Read a book about how you can market on social media. Like, if you think that area sucks, you should probably read a few books. And you've read Steven Kotler, right?
Yeah.
His work on flow. So he wrote in the book, The Art of Impossible, which is, there's so many books in here I can honorable mention for so many different reasons. His would be an honorable mention. It's not one that I pulled. But he talks all about when you read and you're trying to enhance your learning, you would read things in like series of 3 to 5. Easy, medium, hard. So that way, if you're trying to learn something, you need to do them all in a row because you have a better job at retaining it. And ever since I did that, I have done better. Like if you look up here, you'll see stuff on thyroid. I could tell you the order I read those and how I needed to read them to really understand at a high level.
Oh, like easy, medium, hard, like levels of that topic.
Yeah. And so that way, when I finally had someone on who was like brilliant at it, I didn't sound too stupid on all podcasts I used to do because I had read a book on endocrinology on it. By then I had enhanced so far. And that's what I was trying to say. What books are almost limitless with what you can learn. If you're willing to open up your mind to the author's perspective that he's trying to teach you from. And I think that's what the unique things book have to offer.
Yeah, you brought that up, and I think I'd read that in Kotler, and I forgot because I recently read Michio Kaku, and he talked about string theory, and so I went out and bought a book on string theory. As someone with no physics background, limited understanding of chemistry, no engineering side to me, it just flew right over my head, and it was painful, and I needed that stair step in between. So if anyone has a medium hard book on string theory, I'm very interested. I'll put it on the list.
Yeah, Kotler's got some amazing research on that. And I think now the benefit we have is one, because of books, because I'm actually producing one. It comes out soon. Anyone can write their story. Just like anyone can have their own pork channels, we joked about in the last one. You literally can write your own story out there, and it allows for cooler stories to get out there because, you don't always have to go through a publication that says your book's not good enough. We don't want to deal with it. And I think because of that, you should be more encouraged because you're going to eventually find a lens that you identify that's familiar with to see through. And I don't think you would get that unless you did what he's proposing, finding multiple books and trying to understand, and I had to thumb through them. This is like, you approach your reading kind of like studying to get better in anything you're doing. And in business, you should always be studying to get better in business because you've got people who are relying on you to make the best decisions to keep their roof, their rent covered. I don't know about anyone else, but in small business for me, that is the biggest stress. That is the biggest pressure. It is not myself or my family. It is the families I have to think about and make the best decisions. So therefore, I approach my book reading as if I'm trying to battle plan for war in a degree. And that sounds over dramatic. And what I'm getting at is I'm just trying to say, hey, I sit down and I approach it in a way that I want to learn about this. All right. Well, I Google what are the best books on this. And then I start reading reviews on Goodreads and different stuff. And I load up an Amazon cart, or I try to get stuff locally. Jay's way better about going to McKay's here in Nashville for used books. I'm the guy who just like, screw it, I'll pay the extra bucks and get it at Books A Million because it's right down the road. And I sit down and I take time when I go out and do it like I did with these SEO books. And I started thumbing through like the chapters. I looked at the table of contents and then I was like, okay, this is a little deeper. This one seems a little bit more like intro. This one seems like maybe, okay. And I lined them up on my shelf out there. And
I was just
as I
noticing
pull
one
them
out
off,
there. I was like, these are what you're reading right now.
Yeah. There's one in the garage and then I got the two up, and that was kind of like, okay, I was able to understand the order. And I think if you're gonna be in business, and we talk more with small business people now, you should be looking at every strategy and every tactical thing you could get your hands on to win, because the big guys don't want you to. I mean, I'm in a city, you know this, in Nashville, where overhead's always increasing, rent's always going up. Like my rent will double in 2 years. They've already told me prepare, and everything. And you're always thinking like, okay, how do I make these pivots against things I can't control that other people are controlling against me? Well, guess what? In a lot of the books, I've read stories about how people have like stared down millions of dollars in debt that they've accrued. And I'm like, well, if he can do it, I'm okay. I could get past this like extra $6,000 a month I've got to deal with. And it gives you perspective so you don't freak out. I don't know. I think reading has grounded me, if anything.
How often do you read in public?
Do I read in public?
Yeah.
Never. It's a routine to me. It's a ritual. So, I get up every morning at 3:30 and I go downstairs and I will, my coffee's usually brewed. I have my pre-morning supplements and I'll sit there and sip on my coffee. Once I start feeling warm, it's around 4. And I go in my garage, I have a little stand. I put the book I was just reading I was standing at my counter on it, and I pedal on my bike and read another 30 minutes. And I make sure I read 50 to 60 pages every single day. I don't miss. It's a commitment to myself. And it's something where, I do it because it's not like, oh, I read an average of 80, 90 books as a bragging point. It's more, I understand when you actually read a book, you have to read books multiple times if you really like them, because you're only going to get like one good glance at it the first time through. And usually the art of good reading, if you're trying to do it in a study guide, 1 to 3 things from each book to remember on your first pass through, and then understand if you need it again. Robo got on me before we went to air, but this is organized to a degree. I know majority of the books on the right side of my shelf, I don't need to read again.
It's like someone who scatters dirty laundry in their room, and then they're like,
I don't do
I
that.
have a pair of pants at the bottom of that pile I need to wear.
But with the books I do, but I kind of in my head know like, okay, this stuff over here I don't need to read again. They were one and dones. And I think you have to be willing to do that when you're looking at it, because it's like mentorship, right? And I'm not a big fan of them. I think you're better off having almost friends than per se mentors, because friends, if they're the right ones, will keep you more honest than mentor will. Mentor usually has some reason nowadays, because when we grew up, let's be honest, mentorship was, hey, I'll take you out to lunch. I'll pay for the lunch, pay for coffee you get from them. Nowadays is, hey, give me $500 in my Venmo and then I'll meet you at lunch. And it really changed. I'm like, that's not a mentor. So
your industry bastardized mentors.
Oh, dude, I think actually all the industry. I think when COVID happened, everybody became a business coach. And then I was seeing classes where literally, like Alex Hormozi, probably one of the best out there. So we talk about him. And everyone started bastardizing and copying his stuff. And just like, it was like, well, I read this in a book. Actually, this is like straight up Alex Hormozi's like playbook. Like, and I'm like, man, get some damn originality behind your stuff. But everyone became an expert and all that stuff. And that's why I started getting away from that and started digging more into who were the people who actually took the time to sit down in the discipline to write something such as this. Because after writing one, it took a whole year of my life. It took 15 hours a week. I did not miss a single hour. If my ass was supposed to be in that chair at 5 a.m. till 10 a.m., I was in that chair. And sometimes I got 5,000 words and sometimes I got 400. It was the discipline to the art sitting there. And Steven taught me that. My mentor in reading, or a pal, as he says. Pal. He calls himself a pal. I look to him more in the mentor because that man never asked me for a red cent. Never did. And when I went out to California to film with him finally and thank him personally for helping me with everything, he argued with me. I had to sneak into the restaurant and cover the dinner for all of us because he was fighting with me over it. And I was I refuse to let that happen. You know what I mean? So
sounds like a super solid guy.
That's to me what I mean a real mentor is. He had no reason to show up. He's the New York Times bestseller. I'd interviewed him twice. And then he's like, Jeff, you really should write about your story. It's very unique. I was like, cool. He's like, you actually are the only person I would really want to help. And I said, well, why? He's like, because you're very disciplined. Like, he knew that if I said I was going to do it, I'd do it. And he said, finally, he's like, look, I'll meet you next month. You better have something for me. Okay. And I did. And it was the greatest thing. He never asked nothing of me. The only thing he ever did was he said, please don't ever give my email address out or my phone number. And that was a fair thing to me. And I understood that. But to get back to it, I think that in this day and age, we're always looking for the big flashy, hey, sign up with me, spend $5,000 for 90 days in my master class. And I'm like, odds are you could pay $9.95 and found it in a book and maybe spent $50 for $5 and gotten the same damn shit and figured it out in a better way for you.
I mean, before we jump off of Stephen Pressfield, I do want to just give him a little nod because he might be, I know Jeff is a big fan, I'm a fan, one of the widest range of authors that I've seen as far as what he'll write. He writes history, he writes self-help, he writes fiction, he writes historical fiction. It's all across the board. Most people know him from The Legend of Bagger Vance. He wrote the book that eventually got made into the movie with Will Smith and Matt Damon. But beyond that, he just has a lot of phenomenal books, and each one is such a unique style of its own that it's well worth a read.
So I'll give you a peek into him, then we can start. If you got anything at this point before we start digging in, by all means chime in. But so I got to go out to California. I interviewed with him. It's on this channel if you guys want to check it out. We do the video. We go to lunch. We go to dinner. And he's like, all right, going home, going to bed. And it's like 7. I'm like, wow. He's like, yep. I get up every day at 3. I'm like, wow, someone who gets up before me. So he is at the gym in Gold's Gym, Venice at 4:20. The gym does not open to 4:30. He is there waiting with his partner. This man is 80 years old, 6 days a week, works out with weights for 1 hour, cardio for 30 minutes, stretch 30 minutes, showers, goes across the street, grabs a coffee, has a breakfast, and goes home and works. I said, well, how long do you work for? He goes, until I make too many mistakes, and I stop for the day. Every day. Every day. And he got even more intense for him as he's gotten older, he told me, because he knows the sands of time are dwindling even more down. And I'm kind of like, damn, man, this guy's 80 years old, and he showed up every day no matter what he feels like. And he was fighting all these injuries. I was like kind of like trying to talk to him about what we could do and nutrition and stuff like that. And I hear some 22-year-olds, it's just so hard to get up and go to work and work 2 jobs and build my dream. I just need to go all in on my dream. I'm like, what the like you won't appreciate your dream if you got it because you didn't work for it. Yeah. And and that was like the interesting thing. Like when you get into like really talking about him and reading his work and chatting with him, he has a story that all of us can relate to. We all ran away from what we wanted to do. And then one day some of us just start, I don't want to run anymore. It's not pleasurable to run. I'm just going to face it. It can't be as hard facing it as it is running away. You start making that. And that's something I try to tell my kids and men that we know and clients, everyone. The same amount of energy to do positive habits is the same amount of energy to do negative habits. Energy is energy. It's just a matter where you decide to put it. And everyone puts it towards excuses rather than actions. And you can get in your own head. And I think books are a good way to get out of them.
Yeah. One last thought, because we're rambling a bit and not getting into the topic.
No. I love Steve. What can I say, guys? Follow me, fast forward past me.
No. This isn't any thing to do with Steven, but the reason I asked you about reading in public is one thing I've noticed is if I take a book out and I read in public, almost always I get stopped. Someone says, hey, you're reading this, and they'll comment, they'll say, hey, I read that as well. Here's what I thought, or have you read this? It was very similar. Now, if you're a female, I think guys are probably just going to say some crap to try and pick you up. So test if they actually read it.
Why did the crawdaddy say?
Pull out the pop quiz on them.
But when it's just you out reading, it's a great way to meet other people with similar interests interest to build a community. So you and I got to know each other. I was training at the gym while working full time in a corporate job. I was coming in at 5:15 in the morning to train with Jeff. And I don't think we really started talking about anything until we started talking about books. And that was kind of the foundation of how we started to get to know each other. It's a great way to find similar minded people, to build a community. You'll start to learn real fast. Just whatever you're reading, post it on Instagram, post it wherever. People will comment who are reading the same thing. I know I absolutely do on people I barely know, but I follow. And just start interacting and spark up a conversation.
Yeah, that's a great point, man. When I post about the books I read or book reviews, people are like, oh my God, thank you for posting that. I think more people low key are into reading. I just think it's a matter of like.
Reading's cool, guys.
Yeah, that's what I was about to say. Do you think it's like when you pull out a book in a public place and somebody comes up, do you think it's because they're like craving that kind of conversation about something like that?
Oh yeah. I
agree.
I would be shocked if that wasn't the case, because I'm desperate, and some of the stuff I read, I know this is way out there, and I'll put the book in someone else's hands and say, read this, I want to discuss with you. And they never make it through it. It's not their interest. And I'm forcing it on them.
Hey, I would love some book pass alongs. We're going to end up running into the end of the first segment. You say you didn't know we go 30 minutes. We're already at like 25.
Yeah.
But the only thing I wanted to throw in on that is I was telling you earlier that I had a friend over recently and I would like to have read more than I have lately. But my friend, we have like a strange history. We weren't really that close, but he's randomly started coming over lately, and we struck up a conversation that lasted for 4 hours. He came over to watch basketball. We didn't even look at the TV for about 4 hours, just talking about different books and why I like this one, why I like that one. And it was...
How many times did you look at your phone during that conversation?
Never.
Yeah.
Did it? You weren't even, and we had bets on the game. We're not even paying attention to the game whatsoever. But it was really.
Of course, you guys were betting. Young generation.
That's that's a
It's almost bad as my super payment, Logan.
That's a conversation for a whole different day. But we both came away from that conversation like that was really like intensely awesome. Like to just sit there and discuss those things. You don't have those conversations, And I do podcasts all the time, and even still, there's a different level that you can take it to with somebody who's read something that you've read, because it's a whole book that you've digested together. And then the other thing I was going to throw out there too is that they say like mentors are shortcuts, right? And I'm just curious what you guys think about this other thing. I can't exactly remember how it was put, but essentially they were saying that like whenever when you talk about masterminds and it's like multiple people combined together, you kind of create a greater force than yourself, right? So like the idea, I can't remember what book it was, ironically, that I read it in, but they were talking about how these authors become like soldiers for you. Like you can always go to them if something has come up in your life that's applicable, right? So like let's say you get discipline from XYZ person. Well, when you need discipline, like you can access that person via the book that you've read to inspire yourself to be disciplined and stuff. So I just thought that was a really cool idea to think about like these authors that you respect standing like shoulder to shoulder with you, like through as you move through life.
That's what he was saying. You get a chance to stand on the shoulders of giants by reading it. I don't know if any. I said I've written a couple book reviews. Probably there are authors that were a mentor to me in the sense like they opened my eyes, but now that I've written a book, I realized it wasn't so much them being a mentor. It was them just sharing an honest lens of their view of life or the topic at hand, and not so much mentorship. I think when you look at someone like Jocko, if people reference that, or Goggins, you're looking at that because it's like these people have lived unbelievable, unique lives. Like, I mean, I've done something cool, but Goggins, 200 miles, I don't want to do that. You know what I mean? And then you look at Jocko just kicking ass, taking names over, and just his whole approach to life. Some people need that. I think the majority of small business owners, no offense, like I already assume that they look at it like that should be the baseline entry to entrepreneurship. If you're not, I tell people this, like when they go to get into coaching, for example, because that's my trade, they'll be like, I'm gonna be a coach. I'm like, okay, so what are you gonna do? And they're like, yeah, I'm gonna work remote. I'm like, cool. I'm like, so how are you gonna beat someone like me who's foaming at the mouth to get to their email at 5 a.m.? And the only reason I can't is because my app locks me out. And that I don't stop till 7 p.m. at night. And I do that 7 days a week, 19 years in. How are you going to beat someone like that? I'm like, you better be really good. Yeah. Like, you better really think about that. And most people don't.
Work smarter.
Yeah, but most people don't realize like what it really takes to be an entrepreneur. Like, you got to be on the clock. It's a 7-day-a-week job. It really is. And I think when you go back again, reading the books, you kind of go, oh, so other people did that too. Like, I didn't really respect Kobe until it was before his death, when I read a lot about him from Grover, which we'll get into, where he was just so immaculate in the way he approached his training, like 9 hours of shooting a day, like just at 3,000 or whatever it was. I was just like, wow, it made me respect him even to another level, that he did that year after year after year after year after year. And he was like deemed not the best. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like a great, but not the best. And that really sunk into me, that this guy did all that just to be here, and it's
still wasn't like,
it's just crazy.
It's pretty interesting. What do you think about that, Robo? Think about those authors kind of standing with you.
Yeah.
You guys don't seem to really connect to that idea too much.
I think for me, it's different. I'm definitely curious to see what he thinks.
Ask the question in a different way.
So are these people, the people, not just the books, but like the authors, when you really connect to them, are those people that you feel you can pull from almost in like a live way? Like as you're living, you can almost pull it, almost like new advice from these people, because you almost feel that you know them in that way.
Where I struggle is a lot of people read a book and they get motivated from it. And so, motivation's temporary. So once you pass, that motivation's gone. You need to take tactics and methodology and rules of application from it. If you're reading books for motivation, you've already failed, because that's just going to fade. You're going to forget it. I forget half the stuff I read in books. I'll reread it 3 years later and it's like a brand new book to me.
Right.
So that's where my problem is. I don't think of them as these soldiers going into battle. I think of them as someone who drew out a plan and said, this is how I did it. See if it'll work for you.
So do you see them as like a continuous resource even?
Yeah. Oh yeah, absolutely.
I think maybe a better way to say it.
As you get further along in any, entrepreneurial journey or working to better yourself in any way, you'll start to understand a different part of the book than you did before. And so it's a continuous resource in your development.
Right.
Not all of these authors are amazing people. Not all of them nailed it, but a lot of them have enough thought out ideas and blueprints in there that you can always pull something wherever you are in your journey. Perfect. At least of the ones we're going to recommend today.
An autobiography that can't resist being a self-help book. That is what Brittle to Unbreakable, my journey to redefine suffering, is all about. I can put it into so many words. My friend Stephen Pressfield, he's on the back of the cover for his quote. But at the end of the day, it's really a journey about life, and that, it's hard for all of us. But you know what? If you kind of dig in, if you're kind of willing to work, if you're willing to just think for a little bit more and just challenge yourself, that's what you're going to find in this book. It is a raw therapy session, is what one of my friends said. And I hope it resonates with you too, because the pages might have pain, but there is power in pain. And I really believe that with my story. So please check it out. Pre-orders going on now to support me as a first-time author. Books will be shipping in April, and they'll be signed to however you want by me. Do you want to know what's going on underneath your hood? Are you wanting to know if you have low T? Have you kind of been going through life as a man lately, just listless and not even knowing? Hell, if you're a woman, if you've been waking up every morning feeling like you're walking through quicksand, these are not normal symptoms. And then you don't have to wear that badge of beating on you anymore. Well, let's take a look underneath the help. My friends at Advanced Vitality, HRT.com, will give you $25 off a comprehensive lab panel. Now, guys, ladies, this stuff is going to tell you all your hormones, your stress hormones, your thyroid, and not the typical thyroid the doctors say, oh, your thyroid's great. Well, if that's the case, why are there so many overweight people walk around and swear they have a thyroid problem? Because most often you find it out in deeper lab work. And this is kind of stuff that they're going to give you a free consultation on with your lab work. Not everyone needs help with hormones, but they're going to help you decide. And you know what? It's always worth a conversation to have. And they're a sponsor of ours. I think it would do you good to get a look underneath the hood. Are you looking for more content? Are you looking for a videographer that can shoot you looking as good as I look? then look no further than Cinema 83, Logan Hyder. He does some great work with our podcast, ATG Syndicate, ATG After Dark. Check him out, Cinema 83. He's got all your needs to be able to help grow your brand and content the way you would like to have it. You brought up something good about if you're already needing to read a book for motivation, you're already behind. And I feel like that's like the base entry on entrepreneurship. You have to know it's going to be filled with days of momentum you need over motivation. And that was something I did not want to write in my book. And you read it. I did not want to make it a motivational book. I was kind of like, there's so many of those out there. I want to make it a therapy guide. But with that being said, let's get into our books. I think it's time we start cracking this part. So I'm going to go with the first one for me was Turning Pro. Tap Your Inner Power and Create Your Life's Work by Stephen Pressfield. Why I like this book and why I would recommend it, it was the first time it really conceptualized the idea of an amateur versus a professional. Like what I was doing to run away from being a professional. Every distraction I was dealing with, every resistance and all these different things. And it was weird for me to comprehend because with bodybuilding, I'm very disciplined in my time, very disciplined when I eat. My days lined out, I don't miss. But then it was like looking at these distractions that I would entertain myself with, whether it be social media, whether it be doing work that really wasn't work, that really wouldn't benefit me and money, or whether it be just friends and people who weren't actually going to help me get any further down the road or growing. It was the whole concept of like, oh, I'm still an amateur. Even though those people around me are saying I'm successful, I'm still an amateur. And I read it at the end of every year because I like a perspective to read about it every year. And I kind of go back and think about, like, did I have any of those amateur moments creep in where, I decided to not work as much? And Steven put that in perspective with me when I was out there. I'm watching this 80-year-old man who's 7 days a week just crush. And he loves it. And I love working and I love doing all that. And to me, the idea of turning pro was embracing who I really wanted to be as a business owner and not being what everyone else told me to. People were telling me I needed to work less. Work your way out of your business. Do all these things. And I read Turning Pro and I was like, I really like working. It's great to me. I don't want to leave. I felt like Wolf of Wall Street. I'm not fucking leaving, like Baker said, earlier. So that was one book that really, really hit me deep. I think for entrepreneurs, it's understanding that you're going to have these long days and you have to really look at the hours you're working. If your family and friends are bitching that you're not seeing them and things like that, maybe you should look at your hours. How much resistance is in your days? How much of that are you dodging? He really pulled that out, like sex was a distraction, alcohol, eating bad. Like it's really all these different things. Like they're mass amount of distractions and they take you away from it. So it was really impactful to me in that. It's 167 pages or so of just kick you straight in the nuts the whole time.
So is Turning Pro a mindset or an achievement level?
I think it's a realization of what another level could be for you. If does that make sense? Like more, I don't think it's so much self-help. I don't know if I would say that to it. If anything, he's sharing with you the concepts of what's holding you back. But to me, a self-help book gives you the action plan, and Steven doesn't really kind of give you the action plan. Steven's more like, this is how this is, and this is what this looks like, but it's up to you to figure out the action plan. And that's what I admired most about the book. So maybe you could say self-help in that degree, but I took it more away like, here's another level you could get to, but here's what's really stopping you from getting there. It's what the things that you don't think are really an amateur really are. And it goes back to what we talked about with Kobe. Like, think about how many hours a day he spent doing that, and I was not spending that. Because people were telling me I need to take 4-hour breaks to recharge, to get ready. And I was like, oh, this is boring. So,
and not everyone's going to be Elon Musk where they sleep on the floor of their factory
I don't want that.
Whatever
want that
it
life.
is.
Yeah.
But there's a level of pro that I think you're hinting at that says, you know what, there's no more excuses.
Yeah.
That's it. That it's that point where you remove them. And I've read Turning Pro as well. It goes along with some of his other ones, The War of Art, and many other books within that little realm. I can't even think of the other ones right now.
Nobody wants to read your shit kind of runs in there. The writer's journey, there's a few in there that he's got. They're kind of along that line. His books speak more to creatives. Which, he talks a lot about the muse, how it comes to you, and he has a little thing he does before he writes. But you're right. To me, like I said, it was one of those, I stepped back and was like, all right, this is why Tom Brady became Tom Brady. And that was kind of how I took it.
But I mean, even in your local city, there's certain businesses here in Nashville, small businesses, where I think, man, that guy killed it and he's still killing it. And that's turning pro just as much as those guys at the top.
100%.
There's all different levels of what that looks like. You don't have to be in front of fans. There's ways where you can excel in what you're doing and achieve that level.
Shit, I could argue turning pro could be found in your family and stuff like that by not being on your damn phone and distracted by it and seeing what your kids are interested with your kids or what's going on with your wife.
Turn pro in your relationships.
Yeah, no, you know what I mean?
It's about time.
No one really tries to turn pro in their relationships. That's like a whole nother conversation we could get down, but overall, I think that's where the book opens it up. From an entrepreneur perspective, hey, there's levels to this, and what's really holding you back is actually the things that are just honest conversations you need to have with yourself. Distractions kill, and they kill all businesses.
Closing thoughts on turning pro?
Buy it. And
buy it new so Stephen gets a little
Stephen's
support.
Website.
Yeah.
No, when you read it, I think you need to read it with an honest mind about before you go into it, like what does resistance look like to you? And then what are your actual distractions you have in your life? Like we did a whole segment about porn. Maybe it's you actually go fishing all the time. We have a buddy who fishes all the time. Like, how do you ever work? But there's always distractions. People are addicted to their social media. I know I recently got off social media. I have someone run it for me, and it was by far the best thing I ever did. I can't tell you how many hours I got back. And that was an amateur in me. And that was something that I refused to get rid of it. I wanted it because I felt like I had to have it. I had to be competitive. And then I was like, it's worth paying someone a couple $100 and I don't have to think about it. And that's exactly what I did with it.
Nice.
Yeah. So, what book do you got?
So the first one I have is the Checklist Manifesto. And forgive me because I've never said his last name out loud. Gawande, I believe. Atul Gawande. So the Checklist Manifesto is about standardizing your processes, literally creating a checklist. And the author was a surgeon. He went and wrote this book based on his experiences where there was so many issues in surgery, so many issues within the medical field. And it's, a myriad of different reasons, whether it be people not speaking up and telling the doctor that they missed something, or the doctor's done this so many times that they go on autopilot a little bit and gloss over things. And there's so many errors. So he developed a checklist for these different processes, put them in, and saw the results skyrocket and the error level drop drastically. I don't want to bash doctors, but sometimes I unfortunately do, where there's an ego. There's a massive ego.
All the time.
Yeah, and they think, I'm right, you're wrong, you don't know anything. I went to school for 10, 12 years, and it's like, great, you memorized a bunch of information. That doesn't mean you don't make mistakes. We all make mistakes. Once you recognize that and you realize, all right, if I take the things out of my head and put them on paper, I won't miss those steps. It's just a check. And, I don't know how you guys feel about this, but I suffer from major decision fatigue, especially late in the day. If I've been working hard all day, my brain is exhausted. I don't even want to choose what to eat for dinner. I take that out. I say, here are my macros. Please help me. My girlfriend's nice enough to do it. So I'm very fortunate in that way, but he knows that that's an impact on people, and he knows creating the checklist, it takes that away. It makes it easier. It's just performing the task, and it can apply to anything. So now if I list a business, I created a checklist to go through the entire listing. If I'm valuing a business, I have a checklist. If I'm, trying to get stuff done on a given day and I know it's going to be a busy day, the first thing I do is sit down and make that checklist. 1, I don't miss things. 2, I can prioritize how I need to attack it. And 3, it calms me down. It gets everything out from on my shoulders and onto paper. So Jeff, I think you've read this as well. So tell me, has it benefited you in the same way?
We actually always had checklists in play. That was something. So I read a book, which honorable mention would be Rocket Fuel, and talks about visionary integrator role. So I did this. I know we've talked about doing an episode on Strength Fighter. You think is like horoscope. I've actually tried it. I think it works. But there's level, and we have a friend who does it, but he helped me with it and saw that I was 3 in the visual, 0 in integrator, and then Thera was 3 integrator, 0 vid. So I was like, all right.
What are you talking about? Yeah.
It's a book called Rocket Fuel. It's the idea of visionary and integrator. It's key roles to be able to
Identify
to be able to run a company.
But Strength Finder is a 30 ranking of 34 different potential strengths from the one you resonate most with to the least with.
Gotcha.
Yeah, and from that, Thera on the integrator side is very checklist heavy. She actually was doing the stuff I know we're not going to talk about because we have no episode, but the other author that we were going to do episode on his whole model, she actually had read that book and had everything on a 1-sheet card like in airlines. Like they say, like if you're on a plane, you can be able to look at it. So literally a checklist for every position, SOPs the whole way down, literally a checklist of execution. So yes, 100% you have to have that in business, I think, or you'll get lost. You'll never be able to account for things correctly.
Yeah, I've even gone so far as to I don't do yearly goals. That's not me. It doesn't work for me. I tend to do monthly goals, and when I put monthly goals off, I break those down into daily things that I can check off as well. Even to that extent, it's the same thing. I'm super motivated. I can remember for 3 or 4 days, then it falls off. So when we set goals in my house, we put them on a whiteboard and it's right on the kitchen table. I mean, it sits there. There's a big old picture of Dolly Parton, 2 guitars, and a damn whiteboard that has our goals on it. We see it every day. And it's just checking off boxes. And that's how we get to our goals. That's how we achieve them.
Yeah, no, I think that's an important thing from that book. Is there anything else you want to say about that book that really stood out to you?
It's the humble factor in the author himself. For a doctor to admit that they were making errors, then go around and say, and my colleagues were making errors, but there's a better way. I think we can do this if we all just band together. That is incredibly, I don't want to use the word motivating because we just bashed the word to that, but an incredibly insightful look into what you can achieve if you set your ego aside. And unfortunately, there's tons of folks across every industry who don't do this, especially in the medical field. But it's such a simple thing with such big results.
I agree with you 100%. All right, let me get my second one. Now, I think Robert Greene, all his books could be, I could pick them all. I'm a big fan of him. I went with The Art of Seduction. So, and this is part that actually marked the charismatic. Charisma is a presence that excites us. It comes from an inner quality, self-confidence, sexual energy, sense of purpose, contentment that most people lack and want. Learn to create the charismatic illusion by radiating intensity while remaining detached. So this whole book is kind of the idea that you're spending your whole day, in simple terms, you could say, selling yourself to people. And the whole job of your daily existence is literally seduce the other person to keep going what's going. So in business, this is very helpful when you're trying to grow a business. You're literally trying to learn the art of seduction. He talks about using history metaphors from different people and so forth. It was one of those, I took it away. It was I liked it because it wasn't, anytime I've ever read a sales book, I always kind of felt a little dirtier reading them. Just because I'm like, man, that's like, I don't know if I'll do it. And I've never done it like they have. So, I mean, like Sales Playbook was decent, but a lot of the other ones were a little rough. But his was written in a very classy way, per se, that made me go, oh, well, with these historic examples, this makes sense. Okay. I can understand why I would want to be charismatic and learn how to turn it on, but yet learn how to be detached. There are just certain things as I read the book, I went, damn, this has always existed. I was oblivious to it. Now I understand it. And now I can identify why certain people got ahead of others. And that was the thing that kind of put on the map to me. And so seduction to me is part one of what becomes when you understand how to use neurolinguistic programming inside of that's where you'll see it get real deadly. Like, if you go to any of the events, I have a Tony Robbins book I'll chat about. But you're seeing that. They seduce, they pull you in, and then through the proper wording, rebuild you and send you back out. We're doing that all the time. You're seducing your partner every day. You're seducing, for me, gym members to keep coming, keep staying. You're seducing friendships, you know, like, hey, let's keep going, you know? And I think it's a nice way of saying that you're always trying to have to be something that maybe you don't want to be, but it actually does benefit you in a good way if you know how to do it. And I know his books are perceived dark, but I looked at it more in oh, no, this makes sense, and you can actually do this in a good way.
Yeah, we fortunately got to see him speak a few years ago. I won't say where, because
that was a weird event.
We have some rough opinions on that. But he spoke about Napoleon, and it struck me how he analyzed who he was as a person, not just the military side. And it wasn't, he was short and he had a chip on his shoulder, and that's why he went.
Shit
like, he wasn't even that short. Yeah, I don't know why this got started.
So if you watch the new movie Napoleon, which is awful, don't watch it. They literally pull up like literally King Tut's thing, and they put a stool for him to stand up. I'm like, he wasn't like that. Get out of here. So go ahead with what you're going to say about his example.
I was just going to say the examples he pulls from history are super interesting, and the way he analyzes those historical figures in ways that I hadn't seen before. And he tries to pull knowledge from them to share so we can learn from them. I mean, what else can you ask for in someone? It's someone who's incredibly insightful, and they're taking that, and rather than using that for evil, trying to put it in front of all of us saying, hey, here's what the evil people do. Here's what the good people do. You can find a way to do this in a good way, but still be successful. You don't have to be that shitty one.
Yeah, I don't understand why people are, and this is the thing, man, like with me, I have always striven to keep my mind very, very open to things. And I don't understand like why people like, oh, that book's like, these books are evil. And I'm like, no, his books are just an honest take like you can say on the world. And wouldn't we be better prepared to kind of know? Like in business, most people think like, hey, man, I'm going to open up my coffee shop tomorrow and Logan's going to come and buy a t-shirt of my coffee. No, he does not. He don't give a shit. It'll be about 3 years before your friends will actually show up and buy anything from you. And wouldn't it be better if you understood that your job is to seduce people actually to your business? Because most people think, and I was guilty, when I opened up the gym and me and Derek bought 42 people, the original OG 42, we thought within like 3 months we'd see hundreds of people.
Like the whole you build it.
Yeah, no,
thing.
it was like we had like 63 months later, and it just takes time. And it was us learning that like, shit, we actually kind of have to like smile at people. And some people want to be smiled at when they're in the gym when we just think they want to work out. And like, oh, I better not just sweat everywhere. Like people don't like that. You know what I mean? And you learn to grow up, but you learn through reading these books again that, okay, I need to learn to seduce people. And in a way that's helping me help other people because of what I'm doing with my gym inside my community.
Yeah, and it's Dale Carnegie's How to Win Friends and Influence People in a more sophisticated way. That's really it. Ask people about themselves. How fucking hard is that? We don't do it.
No.
Everyone talks about themselves. And so obviously, no, you're not seducing anyone. You're not picking up anyone. That's why your dates are terrible. That's why your relationship with your friends are crap and you have no close friends because you only care about yourself. And that's what it's that stuff. It's the simple things that we look past.
100%.
I was just going to ask you real quick. You were talking about earlier how a lot of those kind of books you almost feel dirty afterwards or gross afterwards. Is it because like he's not, like some of those books you feel like maybe it's teaching you to manipulate people?
I think that what it is whenever you read these books, like even if you read religious stuff, there's sometimes you just have the natural first pass at it where you're naturally, like there's a bite. And it's because in sales, I don't think you have to always NLP someone. Right. I don't think you always have to like try to fucking overcome spousal. I can tell you I've never overcome spousal. I'll be like, hey man, that's cool. Just let me know what your girlfriend says. I follow up 24 hours later. It's yes, no. Like why pressure? Like, you know what I mean? Like I feel like you're going to be okay. And you know what? I can't tell how many people come back to me later because I didn't pressure them.
Right.
And I think that sometimes it's that grinding the screw. I'm like, I get it. It works because sales is a numbers game. But damn, you could be like, it's like ethical capitalism. There could be ethical sales to be. And I just try to appreciate that. And sometimes I feel some of the way that they'll just slam you like, oh, well, you didn't respond. I'll just put you in this email list. I'll keep why?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? That's
that
just
makes sense.
Well, and the other piece, I mean, there is a scummy side to sales. The place I see it most often is real estate investors. You get these people who own multiple single family homes, you know, all these small duplexes, all that stuff. And they'll brag about how they got the deals and call themselves salesmen. And they did these scummiest, shadiest things. You know, they go in and they get you under contract and then they purposely manipulate the facts, change it. And they're like, hey, I need my partner to sign off on this. And then they're like, but my partner was my dog. So I always had a way out. And it's like, man, you're lying. You're getting sales by lying. Like, get out of here.
And some of that were edgy, where the books kind of like,
Yeah, if you're lying or if you're hostile towards someone, hey, you're missing out. You'll never get this chance again. Like, you're not a salesman at that point. You're not building a relationship. You're a fear monger. Like, get out of here.
Yeah, that's exactly what
driver.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense.
What's your next book?
So my next one is a wild card. I don't know if I've ever brought this up to you, but it's called Storyworthy by Matthew Dix.
No, you're not. Talk about, I like a guy whose last name's Dix.
Yeah. So
Of course.
good old Matthew. I don't actually know what he goes
Good
by.
old Matt.
Good old Matt
Good old
Dix.
Matt.
Dix.
So Matt won this thing called a Moth Story Slam contest, and it's these short stories. I can't remember the length, but I think it's somewhere in the 3 to 5 minute range. And what he found out when he was telling these stories and turning it into an art form and really winning it is how to tell a story in a way that engages, but not get mired down in the details. So someone like myself, I studied history undergrad. I go through the extreme and, developing projects, developing strategy plans for businesses. I don't miss details. I don't undershare details. I go over the top to make sure you know what I know before I do it. And what I started to realize with him is I'm giving too much information. No one's listening anymore. They're blocking it out. It's a waste of time. And so what he does is he simplifies the stories. He keeps the key points, and he'll leave out parts that, although seem really important to the storyteller, won't really change the fact of how someone interprets it. The nuance to what he does, he tells a lot of stories that tend to be a little bit funny, but you don't have to have funny ones. It's just simply engaging people in a way where you relate it to them. You tell a solid story to get some sort of larger viewpoint, larger theme across, and then that's it. And he even breaks down the structure of how you should tell a story, which is something that everyone says, be a good storyteller. And you think, how the hell do you become a good storyteller? And you think of your friends who tell them, you try and break down or reverse engineer. I've never been able to do it. And so this is the book where when I started pitching to people, when I started telling the stories of businesses, the book that helped me develop those stories.
It's interesting you say that. My first thought goes to, you're telling stories in a world that everyone's loading into ChatGPT to get their stories told for them because it's easy. I actually think the people who invest in writing and actually invest in the art of storytelling inside their content are going to be able to hands down whip people's asses in all industries that go to ChatGPT. Thoughts after reading that book? Would you say my speculation might materialize?
Perhaps. I mean, I think writing's going to be an art form that slowly dies, and you have some people who are truly incredible and everyone else is crap. Whereas right now, I think it's a wider spectrum. It's going to be the top and everyone else.
That sucks. So
Because you could just take the effort out of it by doing like a ChatGPT type thing to fill the middle ground.
I don't think you necessarily can reverse engineer it to the extent that I've seen him do it. That doesn't mean it won't get there.
There'll always be that pinnacle of pure genius.
And then I think at some point, as people do that, there'll be the next iteration of the art form, and people will figure out. And I don't think, I don't see AI capturing art. And I think storytelling is an art.
Listen, OpenAI just put out Sora.
Yeah.
And I hope to God they can't capture art, because if so, I will not have a job very soon, gentlemen.
Well, I think you'll see capture a certain type. Then at that point, is it even art anymore? That's a different argument. I would say probably not if a machine can do it over and over. But that's when people will develop a new way to look at storytelling or a new form of art in the way that, the spoken word is shared. And I don't see that not evolving constantly to stay different from any sort of AI.
I think what you're going to see is with this, you're talking about short stories and things like that. People, there's something to be said for tone, and there's something to be said for the way you actually structure. So that was something Steven said was very unique about my writing, but was also unique about Steven's. And some of the best authors I've ever liked, their writing was very unique to me. Like, there was just something about it. I know the author that we're talking about in our next episode, we both like the way he writes. It's like having a conversation. You're like reading a conversation you'd have with you. And some of those are great. And I think that ChatGPT and some of these people are going to lose that. And it's just going to be like, hey, you want to be a numbed out person? Great. There's going to be a pull for that. But the real greatness, I think are going to see that being separated over time.
And what Dix does, what Matt does.
Come on now.
Yeah, Jeff. It's
I screwed it up.
very lowbrow
what
and
Dix
ruined it.
does.
I'm sorry, Matthew, if you ever see this, because I'm a fan. But
so funny.
with his stories, he even takes what he actually uses and what he wins these contests with and says, hey, here's the story. And then he'll say, this is the actual story. And this is how I ended up with this one, the one I memorized and said in front of a group.
That's pretty fascinating.
And that's the nuance that I don't think anyone does, where they go, I wrote this amazing story. See, it had this part, this part, this part. It's like, no, start with everything. And then how do I get it to the most compelling version of this story? And so that's why I really enjoyed it.
I went from 105,000 words in my book to 66,000. So I couldn't, I can imagine. We got the 48 Laws of Power next for mine. So, anything else you want to say on that real quick?
No, I think we nailed it.
I just want to throw one more thing. I think we're going to have to do in a second, if you don't mind starting with that one. But you always talk about, you've always talked about it, even whenever we worked together the first time, about taking away the unnecessary, right? Like cleaning off the fat off your word.
Your email still sucked.
Essentialism, Greg McCown, honorable mention.
Apparently minimalism is new communism. So
I'm trying. But one thing that Peterson talks about in 12 Rules for Life that I love is, I can't remember which chapter it's in, but he talks about one of the most famous sculptors ever. And I always say it's Picasso or something. I can't remember. He's a painter. Yeah, Michelangelo. But he talked about how he was bringing out, like, of a big square block of clay, he was bringing the what am I trying to say? The art out of that block. He wasn't like creating it. He was stripping away the unnecessary to bring out what was already there. Yeah, type thing. And that's what it always reminds me of whenever you talk about that. And like you're talking about the story, it's like you're stripping away what's unnecessary to bring forward the story. The best parts of the story. It's like an interesting way to think about it, because you think you're creating something versus kind of taking away what's addition by subtraction.
It's like losing the fat to show the abs,
literally,
right?
Literally. But it's such an interesting way to think about art like that. Because you think, well, I'm going to sit down and create. But you created you had 105,000 words, and then what was really important about making it amazing was taking that from 105 to 60.
Yeah, Stephen looked at me. Stephen on Zoom said, "That's nice. Get it to below 70,000 or 65,000. I think it was." I was like, "I got 66," and I was right there.
That's so great. Yeah. You got enough time if you want to. You got about
all right, cool. So the next one, let's get into 48 Laws of Power. If people read the Bible to understand the good, you should read this book to understand why they don't let it in prisons. Some laws would be Law 1, never outshine the master. Law 2, I personally like this one. Never put too much trust in friends. Learn how to use enemy. Law 3, conceal your intentions. Court attention at all costs. Do not build a fortress to protect yourself. Crush your enemies totally. Pose as a friend. Work as a spy. So you read this book, and I obviously studied it way too much. I probably should have been, if the Christians do the Bible study group, I was doing my 40. And I would meet a guy, Michael, once a week, and we would chat about this book while he did his vlogs. But what stood out to me about that book, it was the first time I was able to be like, oh my God, these are situations I've actually been in where people have come at me this way, like concealing their intentions against me, only to just get gutted. And it gave me some honest perspective. And I've read the book 3 times. I read it in 2021, scoured it, read it in 2022, and this past October I read it. And I was in a completely different spot. And it was the first time I actually used the book in a way to do what I needed to do to let someone know that they had gone too far with me. And it worked. And it was like, okay. And I loved it. I'll be honest. I loved it. It was one of those things where I could actually take it. It was applicable. I understood it. And it allowed me to go through business and understand not everyone's my friend. Not everyone wants the best for me. Not all my partners want to see me succeed. And in fact, the majority of the people who are in my life are on a chess table and making themselves the adversary against me. And it was a really interesting dynamic for me to understand. And I don't think if I read that book, I would have probably changed some things like I needed to, and I might have been in a lot more pain business-wise had I not read it. You haven't read the 48 Laws of Power yet. Have you even skimmed through it or anything like that?
I have. I've gotten through the first 3, I think. What you're saying is interesting, because if someone just sits here and hears the names of those chapters, their first thought is going to be, man, that's dark.
It is dark.
But Robert Greene doesn't write for someone to use those tactics and rule the world. And
100%.
Yeah, definitely make clear what the purpose of the book is.
So the purpose of the book is to understand that you're going to be up against a lot of adversaries out there. Like, no, love them or hate them, but Trump tells everybody to read that book. There's a reason that guy's telling you to read the book. There's a reason that book isn't in prison.
There's a reason that guy thinks everyone's his enemy,
Exactly.
no matter whether or not they are.
But it lets you know that, but again, why is it not in prison? Because people actually were applying it, and it's a dark read. But here's the deal, man. The world's dark. Robo, you sell business all day. Ain't nobody coming to save a business when it's down. In fact, most people are trying to gut you and pale you and take it from you. And that book right there just puts people on the same boundaries. That's what I'm trying to say. If we're going about balance and we're looking at this yin and yang, read whatever spiritual devotion you want to stay clean, but you need to read this one to understand the dirty. And you need to sometimes roll in the dirt a little bit with it to kind of go, okay, this is how it feels. I don't really like it, but now I understand it. And that helps you. And I think it just really, I don't know, I was naive as a man, naive as a business owner. Maybe I bought the social media shit, hook, line, and sinker, that everybody wanted to love me and hype me up and me to win, when I was spending more time pulling knives out of my back. And that book opened my eyes to the reasons why. And yeah, like you said, you hear those names, those chapters, like, oh my God. But here's the deal. The reason that book was written, if you go listen to him talking, is he encountered those stuff too in his world life. He wanted people to know, and he's really a genius. And that book was written out in a way that I can't even comprehend as an author, which makes me appreciate him more. But like you said, what stood out to me is the book uses historical references the whole way through it. Interpretations, reversals, how this all really applies in your life. One of the key fixtures is Napoleon. And stuff like that. And when you really get into it, like one of Napoleon's famous quotes, never disrupt an enemy maybe making a mistake. Yep. You know, and you kind of think about that, and it's true. You don't in business. You never do it in football. You don't go, time out. Hey, we're about to blitz you.
You only have 10 guys on the field.
You only have 10 guys on the field.
I
got you. I was helping you out. You don't do that. And I think that understanding that, you kind of go, not everyone's giving you a hand to pull you up. And I think that's what it helped me understand.
Well, and that's something that I see every day. You know, you mentioned it with my work. Every single day, it's folks who think someone's got their best interest in mind, folks who think someone's helping them out. Really, our society is just a competition for attention. We're pretending otherwise right now, that our society values anything but surface level, what people can see via social media, whatever face you put out there. That's why you see people who look incredibly happy, who have pictures from around the world, who seem like they're making money and they're still committing suicide. There's no happiness in that crap, but that's what we put out there and compare ourselves to. And it's those sort of people who, if they see someone else succeeding, they want to pull them down. They say, all right, you know, I don't want to feel good for that person. I want to be better than that person, so I feel good. And I don't know if that was the same way 100, 200, 300 years ago, but that sure as hell is the way it is now. And so understanding how those people operate and how to interact with them is important. I'm going to bring up something we've discussed in private, where
I'm good with it. Roll, baby.
Okay. So I've told Jeff many times, I think he gives people too many chances.
Oh, fuck
and
yeah.
I am the reverse. If someone screws me maybe twice, they're done forever. It's over. I'm just not going to mess with it. You will give them 4, 5, 6 chances. I'm not even sure if I give some people second chances, depending on what they do. And we have this discussion. I'm like, they only care. I'm thinking about someone in particular, and I know you know who I'm thinking about. This guy only cares about himself. That's all he's ever cared about. He's a user, and this is a book that he probably uses without realizing it. He uses these tactics, and that's the benefit, is you start to see it in real life situations.
Can I tell you something interesting? That individual's actually read the book.
Yeah,
you don't think he has?
He has.
Yeah.
That's how I know.
Yeah.
Yeah, because I was the one who turned him on to it. And that lets you know, because when people get turned on to it, you can really see what comes to them. And it was one of those.
And he'll never listen to this because he's too selfish, too narcissistic to ever learn from someone else.
No, it was one of those. It was one of those when in life and things like that, where you give people the keys, and what they choose to do with it is the path they go down. The keys I chose to take away from this book was understanding in business, hey, it's not always pretty. This accounts for the knives in my back. I just need to be better about the knives I want to pull out of my back.
So it's almost like laying out, like it's, because just from the outside looking in, like I haven't read it, but I've heard kind of a similar, like you were talking about the chapters. That's why I was like, yes, because that's what I've always heard about that book.
It's a dark book.
And what I was bringing, when you brought up Robert Greene the first time, that was the one that I was really thinking about, that I've heard a lot about, of like almost like, don't read it unless you're prepared to take
dark
it.
Psychology.
Yeah, or take it a certain way. Like it's not meant for you to like follow these and be this person. It's more meant for like almost like your defense of people like that.
Yep.
Yeah.
100%. And in a world, they like Robo hit out of the park. this day and age, everybody wants superficial. Therefore, you got to be on
You have to
you got to
be
be on
able
guard
to-
for more protection.
They'll step on you to make themselves feel better in a heartbeat. That's our world. It sucks, but it is what it is. We're not a team.
Well, and the Jordan Peterson thing about being a monster, right? That's kind of what that is, right? It's like you have to be able to be that or understand that to be able to defend yourself against it type thing.
I agree.
Here's a weird comparison, and I'm probably going off the rails in an area we shouldn't go to. But did you ever see the TV show Mindhunters on Netflix?
Yes.
About where they went and interviewed serial killers to understand serial killers.
That
But
stuff is
I
so
don't
fascinating.
I don't know if that's actually that show's true, but we know that happens. The FBI interviews serial killers to understand other serial killers. You have to be with a monster and find out how they
Right.
think to understand how other ones think.
Right.
And that's exactly what this book
You
is.
have a whole social media message telling you nowadays, screw off if they don't support you, go find other people.
Yep.
And to a degree, even we say that. But it's almost like you can eventually find people who are running this and then you like it. And before you know it, you've done things you'll feel bad about later.
Yeah, and I think
said
there's an
before you go.
opportunity to build a tribe with people you trust implicitly. Like there's certain people in my life that I know if they say they're going to be there, they're going to be there. It's not a question.
I'll be honest with you, our guy group, I almost want to make everyone read that book so they understand like this is the shit we're on. That
They're
you
not
should
gonna read
not
that
do.
shit, man.
Well, you should. They'll
Yeah.
yell at you until you do. What's
Yeah.
your next book?
Yeah. So next one is actually about the FBI. You know, I planned this perfect segue.
I love that.
So it's Chris Voss wrote it, and it's called Never Split the Difference. It's all about negotiations. So Chris Voss was actually a hostage negotiator, and he taught it with the FBI. Super interesting stories about how he worked to free hostages, de-escalate situations. But what he found is we always think of negotiations as adversarial. We're thinking about it wrong. It's not you compromise, I compromise, we meet in the middle. He said that doesn't work. Everyone is unhappy with those situations. You have to flip it where you're both on the same side and you're trying to figure out how to get to the goal. So one of his favorite things is if someone says, I need, $1 million tomorrow to free these hostages. What he would say is, on the phone, how do I make that happen? Like I don't have access to the money. I can't get a hold of that. Help me figure out how to make that happen. And then they'll start going through it. And then that person's like, well, maybe you can do 500,000. He's like, again, how do I make that? And it's just all trying to make it some sort of team effort to find solutions rather than fighting over what that solution might look like.
Do you think that that's probably something that business owners today need to be more skilled in than ever? Because you're talking about a competition landscape where people now openly discuss how much they make by posting how much they make on social media for everybody to see.
Yeah, I mean, half that's bullshit and the other half is revenue. Revenue isn't profit, so it doesn't really matter. I mean, this is, again, off the rails, but I had a business where I was talking to the owner who made $1 million in revenue, and then his profit was right around $250K. The next year he did 1.5 in revenue and his profit went down to about 180K. And he's like, look at this, I'm growing. And I'm like, you're not. You're doing more work for less profit. Why would that be appealing to someone? Yeah. And so I think business owners, have a lot to learn in the way that they approach it, in the way that they understand, the whole market working together, that entire process. And I completely lost my train of thought to your question because I went down that and then just got all stirred up and angry about a recent conversation I had. But I actually use this in practice. So if we get a deal on the table and we're agreed, then things start to come up in due diligence. The buyer, the seller, and I usually get on a call or we'll meet face to face and we'll say, hey, the buyer will say, hey, here are my issues that I can't get past. And the seller, rather than argue, we'll say, all right, put yourself in their shoes. How do we mitigate that? How do we work together to find a structure that still makes this work for everyone? I mean, it is 100% applicable what I do. I can't imagine it's not what other people do.
That's actually an interesting take on that. Do you find that people are more receptive going into deals this way than per se? Like, had you not read that book, do you think navigating out there would have been harder?
Yeah. I mean, it's significantly harder when I have to say, hey, this is, this person wants to offer 400K. You're selling for 500K. And they're like, all right, I'll only go down to 480. And the buyer goes, no, I'm only going to 420. And then $60,000 apart and everyone just digs their heels in. There's no benefit to that. It's a waste of everyone's time. Whereas it's how do we make this work so that you get enough to feel comfortable, they get enough, or they pay a low enough amount that they feel like the risk is mitigated and it's worth it.
I think any book you can read on communication, like Crucial Conversations, Nonviolent Communication, all those books that are out there are great because communication is what we do all day long, even in text. And these things matter. And I think that's a great read.
Yeah.
That's a good suggestion.
Yeah.
Do you think that like whenever you're in that type of situation, do you think that that's like that's like a form of empathy? Like you're like having empathy for their issue, like and before you like confront them, it's more like, okay, well maybe they do have a point that they need X, Y, and Z. Maybe we could clear an obstacle out of the way for them or something.
It could be empathy, but you don't necessarily need empathy. You just have to understand that a deal's not going to get
That's
done.
how it works. Yeah.
If you don't open your mind and work with them, it helps to see it from their point of view, but that doesn't mean you can't find creative solutions. So maybe empathy, maybe not.
Gotcha.
What I tend to see the most is once emotion enters it, and Chris Voss talks about this too, but once any sort of emotion enters it, and there's always a little bit of emotion, especially for sellers, it starts to fall apart. So you
Even
have to
empathy, even something like that would.
yeah. So it's coaching buyers a little bit and saying, hey, listen, they're going to get a little emotional about this. And that's why you can't be adversarial. You have to say, I want to make this work. Help me figure out a way to make this work. These are my parameters. And it's an entirely different conversation. I mean, I imagine in a relationship, maybe I've used this, maybe I've not. I don't know. I can't remember.
It sounds very empathetic to me.
Yeah,
Like
we'll bring my girlfriend on and have her talk about all the shit I may or may not use it if I do it well.
Yeah, that's funny.
But I would imagine that if you say, hey, listen, this is my problem, and they're going to say, well, that's how I've always been, it's going to be a problem. But if you say, this is my problem, it's bothering me, how can we figure out a way so that this doesn't bother me as much? They might say, well, I can adjust it a little bit here, but you got to be okay with this. Yeah.
That's fair. I went with someone, unless you got something else you want to say on that.
No,
I know we got a few more books we need to get to. I picked this one because Robo actually said he wanted, we talked about if we could only interview one person in the world, who would be it. Robo said Tony Robbins. I know he picked other books, so I wanted to pick this up. It was kind of a homage to Robo on this. But Tony Robbins, if you're looking for a mindset book, just read that one book because it's all about neurolinguistic programming. He talks to you about how your mind's a movie, how to slowly reprogram it, how you can really do all these different things. It's the only book you need. Okay, like I don't really relate to mindset stuff, so I'm a terrible person to ask because when I was going through my stuff as a child, I looked at like I just wanted to prove everyone wrong. And then when I found out that was fun motivation, I just turned it over to every other aspect of my life, and it has done me well. But when it comes to mindset, if you don't understand how the mind actually works and what it's seeing, then how do you understand how to break what it's seeing to really do it? I think Tony does it better than anybody. I would say of all the mindset books, spend your $12.99 and get that one.
And he's not the first to do this,
It's
but I
just
would
the
argue
best
he's the best.
Yeah, it's the best written. And that's what I'm trying to say from like, when I look at this as a business owner, like, would this book help you? 100% yes. Yeah. Because you're able to, if the picture is broken, you think you suck and you can't do it, you can learn to rewrite that program. Yeah. And about anything, even if you got low self-esteem or whatnot, it's a great book.
The term neuroplasticity, man, we're picking words that are hard to say, or I'm just terrible at speaking.
We're just terrible. My phonics is
neuroplasticity. But that's the idea that your brain can change, that you can, slowly reframe how your brain works. There's other authors that are out there. Caroline Leaf, she writes more from a religious perspective. Is it Daniel Amen? Am I Dr. Daniel Amen?
Dr. Daniel Amen.
Yeah, it's Amen is the last name. I know that. He's another really good one. They both talk about some of these ideas. But Tony Robbins is one of the most incredible people when it comes to breaking down how someone's thinking and then rewiring that in the moment. And that comes from experience, from understanding body language, from understanding how someone's doing it, and just from pattern recognition. It's hard not to see what he's done and how he does it and not just be incredibly impressed. And that's why, I'm glad Jeff chose it, even if I didn't, because I'm overtaking speaking about it.
No, that's why I brought it up, because I knew you loved it. If you think Jocko's good, Tony Robbins' book, this is great.
Yeah.
As far as mindset
I heard on
motivation.
that. I heard
Read
on
that.
that.
It's the only book you need. Anything
Yeah.
else is just you understanding more about people to get over your sadness and go kick ass.
And I will share, I'd skip over some of his books on the financial piece.
Yeah,
I'm not really sure it's necessary. There's so many better resources out there. But
Don't do Dave Ramsey.
Yeah. Dude, anything on NLP, absolutely go after it. It's well worth
There's
it.
not a lot.
What is it? What is
I
that?
actually have a few books, neurolinguistic programming.
Oh, okay.
It's thought to be the dark art of psychology is what they kind of label as. It's not. It's just a form of
It's like
understanding how the
rewiring your
mind-
brain.
Yeah, think about the self-talk, those patterns in your head. If you have negative patterns, you're going to be in a negative mindset, and you just rewire that positive patterns, positive thought process. That's the simplest way to put it. There's nothing evil about that.
Yeah, there's like, have you ever heard of EMDR?
Yeah,
Like that
I had to
kinda-
do a lot in therapy.
Yeah, I did that too. And it's literally that. It's like rewiring. You just go back to a place and think about it now as an adult and realize like, oh wait, that wasn't what I've always thought that it was. Now when you actually look at it, so that's all that stuff is really fascinating to me.
Yeah, absolutely.
Let's get your next one.
Yeah. So next one is Never Eat Alone by Keith Ferrazzi. Despite what you may think, it's not about going out to lunch every day with folks. Keith Ferrazzi is a master networker. That's what he's known for. He rose quickly within the consulting industry, and he did it by networking, by I need to take a quick break.
You're good.
I'm drying out.
You're fine. I understand.
No worries.
So I'll skip back. So Keith Ferrazzi is a master networker. He did it in the consulting industry initially, and then he went on and did it for multiple different companies. And what he really focused on was he connected for the sake of connecting. It wasn't about how can I use this person. It wasn't about how they'll benefit me in 2 or 3 years. It was simply, this person is super influential in my industry and I just want to get to know him better. Or this person is just super influential and has achieved a ton. You know, I want to get to know him. And he not only did it with people well above him and he took his shots, but he does it with people below him. So he does some sort of mentorship where he'll help these kids coming up, and there's really no benefit these kids are going to have to him. But what he looks at it is he's a genuinely good person, and he wants you to be that same mindset. It's about being genuinely good. It's about sharing your knowledge, and it's about helping together as a community. His biggest benefits that he saw from his network were 10, 15, 20 years down the road. It was rarely in the moment, but he made a point to map out who he met, make important notes, reach out to him once a year, have those conversations, those things that a lot of us say, I don't have enough time. Or, we were just talking to Baker on our last episode. He said, we never say no to someone twice. That would be something that Keith Ferrazzi would believe in.
I agree with that.
It's important to nurture every relationship. It's important to show interest and don't use people. When you use them, we can feel it. I mean, we're in Nashville. We see the music industry every day. I've never seen an industry, and God, we bash the music industry on this podcast multiple times.
Can I just throw in a third voice on that one? Because I will not work with musicians.
They use each other, and that's all they care about, who you can connect them to next, or how can I step on this person to meet that executive. It's never, I'm just going to help this person because it's the right thing to do, and they reached out, and if they don't return it, that's fine. I won't do it again, but I'm at least going to take that chance once.
I remember all the people that needed stuff from me and never ever helped me in return.
Yeah.
They sit in a nice list in my head. And I think as an entrepreneur, you need to keep those people on that list.
Yeah.
And be able to be like, that's one thing I think I'm proud about with our guy group. Majority of the guys, like all of us that hang out, we're all like trying to do good shit and trying to be better, and we're not using each other.
Yeah.
And then you have a few that come along and try to use.
Yeah.
And those ones no one wants to be around. Like you're like, oh, don't be that person. And that's probably one of the best books. So if I'm reading that, I want to apply in business. The idea, the takeaway from that book would be the importance of mapping out your connections and then understanding every year where you're at and where they're at and trying to understand where they're at to be able to keep going. Correct?
Yeah. And I would say map them out, nurture them, and then be willing to help even if they can't return it. Because when you have that mindset, I mean, what is it? Benazati?
Yeah.
Spoke at the seminar, the keto camp runner, and then he has the book Keto Flex. He talked about the most valuable thing you can do in your life for your health is vitamin G, gratitude. I love it. Check out his stuff. It's amazing. Yeah, but that's kind of Keith Ferrazzi. He's just grateful to have the opportunity to talk and get to know people. It comes from a true place and it benefits them in an amazing way. So unless you have that mindset that I'm just thankful this person took the time to sit down with me, people feel when you're using them, and they also feel when you're just gracious and you're just there as a good person, and it changes who you are as a person.
100%. We got enough time for us to get to our last two, sir? Mr. Producer, Sim83? Good. Sir. All right, my last one is going to be winning with Tim Grover. Losing is a habit, so is winning. Vince Lombardi said it, and I believe it 100%. I believe that winning is something that it's fleeting, it's hard, and once you get it, you don't ever want to let go of it. I remember this book came out in 2021. I was in a pivotal point in my life where I felt very unrelatable to people. I felt like everything I did was very unfulfilling, and I didn't understand why. I would get a high from like, oh yeah, I finally did this cool thing that everyone says cool, and then the next day I'd wake up and be like, guess it starts over and I have to figure out something new. And it really helped me understand, like, it takes everything from you. And it's unforgiving if you really want it. And that's the thing, like when, 2 to 5% of entrepreneurs, depending upon what charts you look at, is the survival rate over just long term. And it's because people can't handle that low. Like you can't handle and that's why this book put in perspective to me why I go against the grain, and I don't celebrate a damn win of mine. I don't celebrate them anymore. It's not worth it. The next day I'm going to wake up and still be the same, because it doesn't change my impact of what I'm going to do for the next 10 to 20 years. It's one of those, yeah, cool, I did it. Like if you notice, like I don't have any in my body. Like my wife's crazy. She thinks it's crazy. I got like over 20 bodybuilding trophies just sitting collecting dust in the garage. I'm like, I don't give a shit. I'm like, I got everything I need up here. You know what I mean? And that's how I've always looked at it. I think too many people, try to always, when they're seeking winning, it has to be measured by their materialism or letting everybody know on social media, hey, here I gave $20 to this homeless person, video of me doing it. Like I got all these victories. And that shit don't matter. Nobody remembers. Nobody knows every great thing I've done with Iron House. I don't give a shit. The only thing I was ever proud of that I really ever posted on social media is when I gave my chief of staff, now COO, 25% of the company because she sweat equity earned it. And that was the right damn thing to do. Otherwise, I've kept them all to myself. I mean, I think that book really put into perspective, and it helped me get a natural grounding to it. Like we saw in Baker's episode, they started hitting it and flying high, and before you knew it, and I think because that book kind of put in perspective, like no matter what you do, it's going to be like a lover. Yeah, you got me good last night, but baby, tonight's a new night. And it kind of really put in perspective for me. I was like, all right.
Do you ever run into guys who wear those high school class rings from their football team that might have won 2A state, back when it was 1992?
They still tell you about the state championship, Polk County High?
Yeah. It's things like that where you see that and you go, man, you're addicted to the one time you had success in your life, and that was it. That was your top.
That was it. None of these people have done shit since then.
No. Isn't that the saddest thing, too?
And here's the thing, man. Like, at the end of the day, it's great, like to look back and see all you've achieved, but guess what? It doesn't change the fact that tomorrow still comes. Yesterday ended last night, and you still have a new thing to forge for the day for tomorrow. And like you said, you're always like keeping memories of these moments. Like, isn't life going to be different for you in 5 years? Like, oh my God, if I was still holding on to me placing second at 2017 Junior Nationals, when I should have been first, I thought, and riding that high, I would have been so let down because next time I showed up at a show, I got my ass kicked. Yeah. So, I mean, I don't know.
I had a box of all these trophies from when I was a kid playing soccer that just sat in my parents' attic. I had forgotten about it or in the closet, who knows. And then at some point, they handed them to me when I came home. They go, you got to do something with these. And I was like, okay. So I took them home and tossed them in a dumpster. And I was just thinking, what am I ever going to do? Why would I be proud of this? I was 17 at my oldest, or 18 maybe when I won these. I'm not that person, and there's no value in that achievement anymore for me. It taught me skills that I learned now, but I would have learned those skills whether or not I won. Just from playing the game. And
you have them whether if you throw your trophies away or not. Like you said, it's all there anyway.
Yeah.
Like everything you took from it's still there and with you.
Yeah, the trophy means nothing. It's what I learned while working towards it.
The only thing I can say with the trophies, before I want to get your last book before we run out of time, is, like I said, winning is a habit, so is losing. I think so many people today are obsessed with winning in the weirdest of ways that I can't relate to. When I look, and really ultimately losing is a disease that I see out there more than anything. People are willing to lose and they're winning at the wrong things. Like, I mean, I feel like it's honorable to win at a business in an ethical way, not in a sleaze bag way.
I got 1,000 likes today and 0 new clients.
Yeah, you know what I mean? And I feel like, I don't know. I think if you're really looking for a book to put it in perspective, why no matter what you do, you might feel unfulfilled, that's a good book that put it in perspective for me. Because I don't think in my entrepreneurship journey, I've been very fulfilled by what I've done. I've been more fulfilled by what the members and clients have done with what I was able to create. Nothing of what I've done in that regard, if that makes sense. Not a single thing I put into it. I'm like, I'm real proud of that. I'm real proud of what everyone's has the experiences they've had with it.
Nice. Yeah. You created an environment for them to have that.
Yeah, and that was it. You guys pay me money, and hopefully I create a good environment. You guys let me know by staying or leaving. And that's an easy way to look at business.
I know you have your last book there. I had like a 3-hour long conversation with my dad yesterday right after I left here. And one of the things we were talking about is like some of this kind of stuff. And we've had this conversation recently. And we were talking about how great like the Patriot dynasty was, because you have that argument about who was it really that ran it. Was it Belichick? Was it the defense? Was it Brady? Was it? And people have their thoughts on that. But from the outside looking in, it's like, like at the end of the day, they won a bunch of fucking championships. I know that. We can argue about who, and I agree with you, by the way. But we can argue about that, but at the end of the day, the job was accomplished, winning was done. And so, yeah.
Actually, an interesting thing in my honorable mention in this book, Captain Class, Sam Walker, the author, does it, even if I'm not mistaken. I think Brady's the only one he mentioned, but it's not for the reason why he wrote the book. It was very interesting. So, go ahead.
So, last book is Think Again by Adam Grant.
You see, I bookmarked the hell out of it.
Yeah. So, I didn't bring my copy of this one because I knew Jeff already had it. Yep. It's more Adam Grant as an author as a whole than just this single book. And the reason I'm a big fan of Adam Grant is he looks into the psyche, the sociology side of the modern day workplace, and he points out the flaws. He says, hey, this is how people are managing. This is how people are thinking about the world. This is how bosses are interacting with subordinates. This is how companies are treating employees. And this is why it's not working anymore. You have to reframe how you consider these interactions. You have to reframe how you talk to employees. He is a huge poster on LinkedIn. And I don't think you're on LinkedIn at all. Logan, I don't know if you are at all.
I haven't used it forever.
But what he posts on there is very, very critical of corporate America. And he is I think he was the youngest tenured professor at Wharton Business School, which is an amazing feat. If he wasn't the youngest, he's close to it. But he is putting himself out on a limb and really pushing the boundaries of how our society treats the workers. And that's something where we're starting to see the clashing of those who run companies, those baby boomers who are still at the top, clashing with millennials and Gen Z, because we have entirely different value systems. We have entirely different ways to look at it. If you're a people manager, if you want to oversee a team at some point and you don't read Adam Grant and understand your impact and how you have to do that, the skills you have to develop, you're going to be very short-sighted in the way you approach it. He has changed my mindset on a lot of the ways I even talk to clients and opened my eyes to giant blind spots and empathy. So I can't recommend him enough for understanding, interacting with people, and how to do it in a productive way.
I think one thing I took away, which is all those, but there was one key thing. I liked small business even more because I don't have to put up with that shit of corporate. Meaning I can be able to get into the weeds with people. What do you really need? What does it really matter? What do we really need? Have those conversations. My argument I have all the time to other people is corporate America is so bloated to a point that it can't even resemble anything of a natural business to me anymore, because it gets so, he brings up good points in there, like how the interactions are, right? You can't have those interactions and be successful if you're a small business. You die. But if you're corporate and you got stockbrokers or stock people buying your stock and shit, You can go wherever you want to go to a certain degree. It runs based upon data. And data doesn't give a shit about relationships unless I'm wrong.
Corporate America tries to convince you HR is your friend. HR is the one that teaches you how to interact. HR is the one that shows you the rules to a game. So HR is not your friend. If you work a corporate job and you tell them something secret, that will get back to your boss. They've never been your friend. Their job is risk mitigation for the firm. They pretend that they're there to develop employees. They're there to develop managers, and it's never true. That's never their primary concern. And so that's where you have to think, all right, if I'm going to manage a big team, if I want to grow a business, I need to learn how to do this on my own, because I'm not going to be able to bring in some HR professional to help out. I have to develop these skills. And that's where I think it's beneficial to have someone, who can oversee you, who is a great people manager, who just shadows you and looks how you interact with folks. Reading, Adam Grant is one. Laszlo Bock is another one I like a lot. He wrote a book called Work Rules from an HR perspective, but he went into the data side of it. He got rid of all this subjective stuff and said, let's turn this into data. Look how wrong we all were. And I'm pretty sure he was HR at Google and just showed everyone had it wrong and how they looked at people, how they treated them, how they interacted with them. So incredible insights out there, but Adam Grant is leading the charge.
I actually think the reason the Adam Grant book hit, and I know we got to wrap this up, is a lot of the books that talked about like leadership in corporate America were very John Maxwell based, in the sense like, hey, rally everybody around. Let's everybody get together. That doesn't work. I recently wrote a piece that the Maxwell leadership thing is dead. It's all about entrepreneurs now. And that's what Adam Grant, to me, low key pointed out. A lot of people in millennials, they're very much entrepreneurs. They want to work with you, but they want their own autonomy because they represent different values, but they still want to work equally as hard as you do, but it's in this box.
So like they just don't want the...
Well, no, like someone like me, I'm from let's say that World War II generation that everyone throws around. I don't mind working 60, 70 hours a week. I like it. It's just very fulfilling to me, right? But to some millennials, they're raised on 35, 45 hours a week, somewhere in there. Very hard boundaries, very firmness, but they want their own autonomy and they're willing to work really hard and they want to build something that they are proud of. I don't know if the teams will go away as much over them, because the majority of the kids, I see it with my kids, they don't like really working with each other. They like to be on very similar task and very siloed. And that book is starting to show that difference in the corporate America. People coming in, they want to be like treated like adults. And that's how I run my company. Autonomy is value. If I hire Robo, like I do you obviously know what you're doing. I don't even like you emailing me.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? Like I trust it, right? And I think that's what he's low-key getting at, because you have a lot of in the corporate America, the older generation doesn't trust the younger generation. Doesn't respect them, doesn't trust their work ethic. And I found some of them are some of the best workers, but they have a mixed skew of what they're worth. And what I mean by that is like your job position can only be what your job position is actually worth on a job market.
Right.
It's great that you see on social media your friends are making $200,000 a year doing whatever. They charge $500 an hour for consulting. That doesn't pan out for everybody.
I'll argue the reverse, though, and say those people at the top, the wage gap has gotten bigger. It's gotten much, much bigger. And so those people coming in, the millennial, the Gen Z, when we came into the job market, we realized this system is rigged.
Yep.
And so if we're taking a job, we're going to say, I know how much you're making. You're not worth that much. Sure, I'm going to ask for more than I'm probably worth, but fuck you, because you are exploiting the people at the bottom, and I'm not going to help you do that. You're not going to do it off my back. And that's why they're saying I'm taking a different route. And I think that's the future, is these people at the top who have done it on the backs of, people who didn't fight back, who are coached and taught by society that they should have the same job for 40 years. We know that's bullshit now. We know you're going to move every 2 to 3 years. You have to move every 2 to 3 years because you will lose out on salary gains being loyal to a company, versus if you move every 2 to 3 years, you'll significantly increase. And that's what the boomers built. They built a system of exploitation that we just uncovered, and we said no more.
See, I don't know, maybe, but then part of me goes, most of the young people today have a very disturbed skew of like actually what is earned, meaning they assume they just show up to work that it should be given to them. Here's the deal. Like that sounds great in corporate America. You know what? Just fuck the big guy. But in small business, I ain't driving no fucking private jet. And I don't have that. And it's kind of like everybody looks at me like I have this great lifestyle. I'm like, no. You know what I mean? And that's where it gets skewed, because then it becomes anyone who owns a business. I'm lumped in with those guys, right? And that's what I'm trying to say. The pushback against, I know what I'm worth.
Yeah.
Cool. Well, guess what? I'm going to find someone who isn't. Eventually, you're going to have people who are going to get out of it. It's like, to me, it's like duck, duck, goose. Eventually, you're going to be without a spot to sit down if you keep playing that game. And where my issue is, a lot of millennials, Gen Zs, from what I've seen, don't understand skill acquisition and growing at a rate at which they need to do to be able to say that they are worth that money.
You can say that with any era of our society, with the younger ones, where the older ones say they don't get it, they don't work hard enough. I mean, think about the guys in the Industrial Revolution. They worked 7-hour days, 12 hours in factories and killed themselves. And the next generation said, that's bullshit.
Yeah, no shit.
I'm done with that. And now you got these people who worked, 9 hours a day for 5 days a week back in the 50s, 60s, 70s, 80s. They didn't have cell phones. People weren't calling them at home. They barely took work home. And now they're trying to argue against, people in my generation that say you're not working hard enough. And it's like, fuck you. You never took your work home. You weren't on call 24/7. You weren't working on the weekends because you had a cell phone and an internet connection. You have no idea the pressure it is when I get a text message and I have to hop on because some asshole who's 60 years old wants me to give a presentation tomorrow at 8 a.m. and it's 8 o'clock at night. And it's just because he wants me to serve him rather than the customer. That is modern corporate America. And Jeff, I'm going to argue this to my death because I worked in it to an extreme level, that I believe the top does not understand how to value and incentivize the bottom. The new people coming in, and they're bitching because they're unwilling to learn the value system of millennial and Gen Zs. If they learned it and they incentivized the right way, they would get them in the door.
So I want to go down this road for a second. I definitely know we have to wrap up. So that's great for corporate America, but that attitude's bleeding over into people today with small business. And guess what? Most of the people in small business don't have enough spine to put up with people's shit.
Change it to a full commission structure.
No, I think actually start changing people's attitudes. Yeah. Stop looking at just because people are in charge that everybody's out to fuck you and get your money. Figure it out. If you don't like that zone, then get out, man.
But that's society, right? We just talked about that. 48 laws of power. Everyone is out to fuck you and get your money. Yeah,
but I mean, like, here's the deal. Like, you're going to get that to a degree, but I ain't out to fuck nobody.
We got to believe in
how do
people.
You tell the difference?
How do I tell the difference? Like, how do I tell the difference? Well,
you're a 22-year-old fresh out of school,
right.
And you're getting offered jobs for $45K a year in a market like Nashville, where to even be able to buy a home, you need $130K a year.
Well, I'm just going to go ahead and give the dick answer Robo ain't going to like. Yeah. I worked 6 a.m. to 8 p.m. and I bounced on the weekends to build my shit. Suck it up, Buttercup.
Just because you did it in an extreme way doesn't mean it's right for society.
Not saying it's right, but here's the thing. This is all hopes and dreams. Like, I hoped and dreamed I would walk again without a limp, but it didn't happen. Yeah. So we can all come out of college with hopes and dreams, but it doesn't mean it's going to happen. My argument is more to the attitudes. Yeah, people coming out to be like, fuck everyone who's got any kind of money. And it's like, you weren't fucking with me in 2010 when I slept on an air mattress, were you? Nah, you weren't. But now I'm cool enough because I have a maybe nice enough car that you think you could get more. I should give more or whatever. Well, what are you doing to really enhance yourself? And that's where I go at in small business, which I do believe is the future. I believe entrepreneurs is the future. But here's the deal. Y'all better figure out how to really work together and collaborate, because some of your all's ideas on what y'all are worth and what the market can actually pay for the jobs are vastly different.
I think that's where you just change the value system and the structure, and you stop doing these salaried jobs where they're expected to put in 80 hours a week and they know the partner's making a ton of money, but they're not. And you change it to be a fully incentivized structure. You make as much as you're willing to put in.
Like you're saying, the partner's going to
took us all down this whole road here.
Yeah. Hey, listen, we can always split.
No.
But I think that's
as well. Yeah.
You got to change the structure. You got to incentivize the deliverables rather than the time.
So do you think that it would be like you said entrepreneurs are the future? Do you think like Jocko talks about working within the system a lot? Like he talks about like if your boss is bullshit, whatever. That there is a case to be made that you stay in that system to try to affect that system once you get to that level. So do you think that that's like kind of where this generation should they try to get to that level and affect the system, or should you just go entrepreneur route and just not even mess with it?
We basically need everyone in Congress to move on, right? It's full of people who won't give up power, who are making poor decisions that are short term, and they're screwing everyone else. So yeah, you can get in the system, but good luck getting to the top, because the people at the top are not retiring. They're not giving up power at all. I think to truly change the system,
sides don't give up power.
I agree. I'm not saying one side or the other.
Yeah.
I think to truly change the system, you need them to move on. And until that happens, I don't know how you do it.
Just a total flush out.
I'm hoping that the 7.2 million illegal immigrants who's come over in the last little bit, that we'll get 429 of them to be our brightest to lead Congress in the future. That's kind of what I'm hoping for.
There we go. We'll see.
They cannot be any worse.
Well, that's it. Yeah.
I don't know, buddy. I mean, I've seen weirder shit going in the last few years. I mean, I'm just saying.
I just want to point out real quick on the because first of all, it's fascinating watching you guys, ping pong this idea back and forth for sure, especially having like experience.
I did Homeland Security. I mean, I know what he's talking about. It's a cesspool of shit. You literally are. There's a muck of you here in the bottom, and the way you go up is by killing each other. And then you get to a level the jobs go less, and you kill each other, and then
kiss some ass, and then that person goes up, and they bring you along.
Oh, dude, like it was a joke.
Nepotism.
In the federal government, dude, the more you fucked up and kissed ass, the further you went up. They often say the same thing about the military.
You said the more you fucked up.
Yeah, no, the more people fucked up, the more ass they kissed along with it. Like the further you'd walk, because you'd be like. So I know what he's talking about over here, but I've gotten also the flip as a small business owner, where people look at me like I've got my hands and pockets, like they're empty.
Yeah.
Like I can only build so much. And at some point I have to look to you to actually build that. And it's great if you want money, but here's the one thing I can say. And this is where I challenge everybody. And this is why I talk about the entrepreneur model coming big. If you want more money, show the damn person how you can make it. Most people come in with abstract art. Hey, okay, well, how's that work? If you could show me a path to make more money, I'll gladly do it. Because you know what? It enhances the business. But every time I push someone who says that the big guys fucked them, guess what? They don't have a better idea than the big guy that fucked them. Just saying.
That's kind of what I was bringing up, whether you do the system or the entrepreneur. I just wanted to also mention about that specific topic. One of the first things whenever I started my business, I was telling Baker earlier, it was like 28, so this is like 5-6 years ago at this point. And Jeff being one of my first like really serious clients, bigger clients, and he gave me access to his trainers, which allowed me to be full time. And but one thing that I was in the very beginning, we butted heads at different times, mostly because I was fucking things up, and if not all the way. But one thing that I remember, like I hear that all the time, way before we started working together again. I think about this a lot. Is you said to me one time, like, you should focus less on getting new clients and focus more on doing a better job for the ones you have.
100%.
And I think that's kind of what you're trying to say here is like, instead of like focus on the next opportunity, maybe try to like
because
maximize this one.
Here's the deal. Like in corporate America, I see what you're saying. You're not going to walk into some old dude's office, some old chick's office to get your way, more likely.
Never.
Probably not going to happen. But in small business, because I see this, small business gets lumped in with these guys because we're owners or CEOs because we have to put that on LinkedIn or whatever. I mean, and at the end of the day, it's kind of like, but some of us out here like, look, I'm smart enough to know if I build with people, I'm going to be more secure. My future is way more secure if you will build with me. However, there's only so much I can do on my own. And with you always be like, well, what more could you do for me? If you can't provide me besides abstract art, where it goes, you're useless for being able to make that argument to me. And I think people sometimes go, you should give me this work, I deserve it. Okay, tell me why you deserve it. And this is something that goes back to that book. Like you have this butting of the heads because the one group saying, you need to work all these hours to earn it, to deserve it. And I'm over here saying like, maybe a little bit of this, but maybe a little bit of the recognition is your worth is as much. And if you want to build that, build it with maybe what we talked about today, books or going and taking a class or going and having anything you could do to offer value is always going to be taken. That's where I think that if I'm younger, I think if you want to be a rebel and you want to be an outlaw and you really want to like, fuck the system and go out there and just be better and just make America better. Small business is where it's at. Everybody needs small business. Nobody needs too much corporate. Amazon's going to take over the world anyway. I'm expecting them by USPS anytime.
We have a society right now built to stifle entrepreneurship. So taxes are insane on small business. And the biggest one, health insurance. It's unattainable if you're early in a small business. You're just taking that risk. If you have a family and you can't have health insurance for kids, like how do you be an entrepreneur?
I had my brittle bone disease throughout my life. I had no insurance until 2020. So I went like from 2010 in my divorce till 2020. I had catastrophic insurance in case something really fucked up happened.
That was it.
But my brittle bone disease, dude, I flew for 10 years. I couldn't afford it. Because what he's saying, you can't afford overhead. You can't afford, like, when you go to
you're talking about providing for employees too.
Yeah.
Yeah, you're self-starting. Like if you go start a business, you can't afford insurance.
Dude, it's ridiculous in the marketplace because they go off your income as tax credit and it's all this other stuff. But what he's getting at is like you have to make, when you go into small business, you're taxed. And you're taxed at such an obscene rate that literally this is what I try to get at people. The reason those rich people keep going further up is because they keep getting stifled more and more. So like me, my accountant sat me down, was like, you're going to need to put another $250,000 output to really kind of make this worth the squeeze or go back down.
Oh, yeah.
And I was like,
you get to the point where you're not even incentivized to keep growing.
Yeah, that's what I'm trying to say. So I get what he's saying. I relate to that part. But the other part of me is kind of like, okay, well, I know I've maxed out the most I can, and I'm doing the best I can. And it's not always I'm being the bad guys. And I get the corporate America kind of gets that shtick, but I think small business bleeds into that. And that's where it goes back to the 48 laws of power. You got to kind of know how people are going to look at you and be able to counterbalance that.
Yeah, that's really interesting.
Our society's trying to stifle entrepreneurship. I don't think it's on purpose. The Republican Party sits there and says, we're the party of small business. Like, bullshit. You're the party who takes money from big pharma. You're the party who takes money from health insurance companies. You're the party who doesn't enforce that hospitals post their prices online. And we have a massive one in Nashville who owns multiple hospitals around the country, and they won't post their prices online. And that's the damn law. Yeah. Like, so no one is protecting you as an entrepreneur. So if you're doing that, you're taking a risk that you could potentially get in a catastrophic accident, ruin your life, and you have no way to cover it. And that's the risk that you have to understand when you take that. And that's why it's not going to be as common. I think 10, 20 years, health insurance is only getting worse. The only way you fix that, I know nationalized healthcare is, people go, why would I want them in charge of my healthcare? Look at how they do the VA.
Because most of you are so fat, you need someone in charge of your healthcare.
It's like, well, it'll mitigate the risk across the entire country, and it'll produce a new economic boom because people will no longer worry about that. Most bankruptcies are healthcare related. You want to increase entrepreneurship.
You're freeing up people's money.
You give people security for their healthcare.
Well, I'm just going to be the dick in the room, but it's really disturbing when you don't have to be a citizen and get better health insurance than someone like me who's really trying to kick my ass in my country because I wouldn't have this opportunity unless I was within this country, and I'm damn smart about that. But I agree with him. Both parties are out to screw you. And if you vote red or blue at this point, just because that's what you were told to do, let's look around.
Care about you. Not a single person.
But you know what it is?
You.
It's literally watching Microsoft and Apple go head to head, like all the time.
Yeah.
And I'm just like, neither of you got, like, this is what I was explaining one day to my wife. The reason that government pissed me off, and then I knew we need to definitely wrap this. The reason government pissed me off is because I am of the mindset, I don't disagree with some of Trump and the things, but I'm not a fan of him. I think he's a piece of shit. Like, I want to be clear.
The personality's not
super
But I do
appealing. Think this country's at a point now it needs to be run like a business.
Yes, correct.
And I think that's uncomfortable for us to understand.
Who's filed bankruptcy I'm not
talking. Well, that's the thing. But let's just face it. Every other candidate's trash, and the Republican Party shot itself in the foot.
The
when
options
they did
are
the
the problem. At the end of the day,
anyway.
the fact you end up with those two people, that's the issue.
But my whole thing to this is he had one good point. The country's probably at the point it needs to be run like a business. Okay. The fact that the government can write obscene amount of debt is a reason why no one's paying back their student loans. Why you do what's role modeled for you. If the government's not doing it, well, shit, why should I do it too?
The Pentagon has failed like 6 years of audits in a row or some shit.
Yeah, but like trillions of dollars disappear, right? And nobody blinks an eye. My argument is I can't run a small business the way the government does, because here's the deal. You would go somewhere else and you would too. And I'm like, whoa. I'm not asking for pristine things. I agree with Robo 100%. I suffer from something that an all-loving God gave me, and I can't control a pre-existing condition. But the insurance company says, hey, I'm sorry you got that scarlet letter born on you, but you pay 180% more than everybody else. Even though I don't smoke, I don't drink, I take supplements, I work out, I'm religious about my health, they don't give a shit. I'm throwing it in a pile. And I think that at the end of the day, we as a country, like going down this road of small business now where we're talking about really the future, you can't run the way it's running. And that's what frustrates me the most about the politics side of it. Because I know he can't sell a business that's as dysfunctional as the government is and as much debt. And I can't get anything out of it. And here's the other thing. If we were CEOs of our company that you brought up, and we had the approval ratings of those in Congress and Senate, we would never have a job. Yet we keep voting them in.
That's a good point.
Like you wouldn't have your job. Like people would, in the real world, I'd fire you for being inept. Like you're a dipshit. You correct your position every week. You don't even know where you stand half the time.
It's crazy.
Why?
It's crazy.
Why? Because, they distract you with dirt over here. And it's one of those things, like, I just want someone to run one day and be like, I snorted coke out of a stripper's ass. I did this, Here's all my dirty stuff. Debate me on real things. And people could get past it. I'm hoping for that future one day. And I hope it begins with this new generation that's bucking up against the adults and the old generation. I just wish it was done in a way that it's not everybody catching flack. Because there are some of us business owners, like a good friend, he had to file bankruptcy. And the only thing that man did is he wants to be able to really provide for a bunch of people. And he had to go through that, sweating bullets, be torn up by articles. And all it is restructuring. It's not even that bad of a thing. But he's taking that risk on because he wants to help people. He wants to really do this. And some people would say, well, fuck him. He's a big guy. He's making all this money. He makes shit. Yeah. Most people, and he knows from selling businesses, most people who run small businesses ain't making shit. And you know that.
If you run a restaurant, you're doing 10% margins, you're doing well.
Yeah, dude.
The margin. Did you see
where
California, they were talking about raising the minimum wage? Someone put this out there, raising the minimum wage in restaurants to $50 an hour.
To 50?
50.
Tennessee wants to go to $20 an hour minimum wage.
I mean, that's what the 5 Democrats, they're not going to get anything passed.
That's insane.
Yeah, and they already went to 20 in fast food workers. Like, there's high cost areas. It needs to be a geographical thing.
Like
it shouldn't be national where they say we need to raise the national average. No, each geography needs to be able to handle this. It's a locality issue.
All the businesses would collapse because business owners wouldn't be able to understand their price for that.
Yeah, there's people who are doing that, who are trying to pander to that younger generation, just like certain people pander with handouts to other groups in society. They say, I'll give them this handout, they'll always vote for me. That is what's happening now, where these politicians are saying $50 minimum wage in restaurants, and they're trying to get all these people on board with them. And it's like, no,
did you want to talk about
that's impossible. Yeah. Why don't you promise recess all day and vending machines have free candy for all the kids?
Literally.
That's that same person.
Dude, that makes some. I was just gonna say, it makes me think about you heard the Lyndon B. Johnson quote about how he's gonna give benefits and have people voting for him forever.
Really? Well, I don't know what you're talking about.
I can't even repeat the quote because it's so bad, but he uses the very derogatory racial term, and he says, I will get these people to vote for me forever because I'm going to give them everything they want, basically. And since that moment, that particular vote of that particular group is 90+% every single time.
Think about the farmers and all the farm subsidies you get. You think they're ever going to vote for a candidate who threatens to take those away?
Never.
Or the unions? Are they ever going to vote for a candidate who's anti-union?
Well, that's something I've never understood, is like when you put benefits out like that, you can't take them back. Yeah. Like, why is this not something that's understood? You can't give things to people and then try to take them away.
When I run for governor of Tennessee and attain my seat, I'm going to make sure I go to Detroit and get all those factory jobs down to Tennessee and grow the economy.
I'm about
we're going to get away from the union stuff. You don't need that. Come down here.
There's a metaphor I want you to use when you go run for whatever office. And it's, if you have a ship with a bunch of holes in it, Do you put a massive engine in it, an even bigger engine, and just try and crank out more speed while it's taking on water? No, you stop that damn ship, you patch the holes, you drain the water, and then you send it on its way because it probably has a good enough engine.
This 100%. This is all I want to do when I run for office is I'm going to be like, for 4 years, I'm not going to touch abortion or gay issues. I don't care. They've gotten us nowhere. It's time we work on middle ground stuff. I agree with you 100%. As you all can see, we're a conversation about books can lead you.
But you were talking about corporate America, and you were describing how like it gets to a certain point where it doesn't even behave like a business anymore, and that's like what you're talking about with the government too. It's like it gets to a certain level of numbers and people that like it doesn't even behave.
It's like Comcast. They're like trying this whole thing to get you back. Nobody wants to go back. I'm not even going to attempt to try it.
Yeah.
Like, nope, no, thank you. Like, sorry, so much damage was done for so many years. I don't care. I don't feel bad for business like that. Like, no offense, I didn't feel bad when COVID killed businesses in the first 2 weeks. You know what it said
like
to
you
me?
were clearly in a bad
you
position.
were in a bad position before COVID, and you were going to get your ass kicked. I had 8 months of savings saved up. I was the anomaly. I actually found that out going into it. However, I did not feel bad for those people. I think sometimes in life you have to be prepared, and sometimes you get caught with your pants down.
I hear you on that.
And the government gets caught with their pants down all the time. So,
well, Jeff, my pants are up. So why don't you go ahead and close us out for the day?
Well, as you guys can see, like I said, great conversation about books. If you all had any books we missed that you would like us to discuss or maybe even read and discuss, we'd love to hear about it. If you enjoyed this episode and would like us to do another one on some other books, Robo and I are king when it comes to books. We will gladly have those conversations, but I had a good one. I think there were 10 books in total that were very vast. As you can see, they led down all these different conversations. And this goes back to the point of why you should want to be reading books or listening to books if you're an entrepreneur. Just think about the conversations you have, AKA never eat alone, the connections you can make from those conversations. Yeah. Tied it in beautifully.
I do want to say, just because you guys are so high level with some of the stuff that you do, we were talking earlier about books, how like I had a bit of time where I was doing very well, and you were like, once we started talking about this, and definitely a lot of these books are higher level than I'm fascinated to read some of them myself.
Just take one each time you leave here, right?
Dude, literally, I just don't want to steal from you, but I will. But
it's borrowing.
Right, I'm gonna be here. But I was just gonna throw out a couple really easy, like the Four Agreements is like a 150-page book that a lot of people take a lot of value from. Think and Grow Rich is longer, but it's very big type. And Napoleon Hill is a bit of a controversial subject if you know anything about him. But the book itself, I think, is really, really good. The Slight Edge is another one that I like a lot. That's very easy read. Talks about momentum and compounding interest and stuff like that. And then there's a guy who I'm not gonna be. I was trying to think of the name of him, but there's like there's cursing in the middle. It's not Mark Manson's book, although that's a good one too. But there's a couple of these smaller books. I'm not going to be able to think of them. But those are a couple, particularly like the Four Agreements is a really easy read. Just like stuff like that if people want to get into reading versus jumping straight into like 12 Rules for Life type thing.
Nah, I'm going to give the same advice that I give for diet and exercise. Jump into the shit you need to jump into.
We got to have the easy, medium, hard earlier. You said that?
That's for like if you're trying to learn and retain something. This is for.
Nothing I recommended is a hard read.
Yeah, no, these are things where it's like, look, man. You just got to jump into the arena sometimes. And when you're in the arena, that's when you figure out how to decipher down and how to niche out what you're trying to read and understand. Not when you're just trying. When you're entering the arena, everything's wide open, in my opinion.
Heard. Cool. Well, those are a couple recommendations, and on my part, that would be it.
Sweet. guys, follow us on social media, ATG_syndicate, Instagram, Jeff Unbreakable Black on Instagram. What is it?
Jason Robo 08
on Instagram. And as always, we're here on YouTube. Share us, shout us out, let us experience the love or the hate. Both is fine with us. Have yourself a good one, guys.
Good.